Kia ora everyone. Just a bit of follow-up from yesterday. I didn't actually share anything from my own courses in terms of learning design, how I package things. So we also had a slideshow we didn't refer to much yesterday that I'll be sharing. But so I've just added a new slide in there just in terms of learning design, what that's generally the structures are that are part of that. And when I say learning design, this is conventional learning design. It's not necessarily how we encourage our teachers to entirely do this. But anyway, generally, when you package things online, you're looking to have objectives or outcomes. And then it's up to you which. For me, objectives are broader. I enjoy them more, and I think they allow more avenues for learner agency for doing things outside of the narrow, perhaps, but that's just my own preference. And then you put an overview or explanation of that, some related tasks or activities which may be linked off, and then resources as well, again, which may be linked off, and then some form of assessment. This is not always required, but it's something you may build in terms of, okay, how do we know whether we've learned? So maybe some self-assessment, peer assessment, maybe something the teacher does. There's various ways of doing that. And that's how you package things, and I'll show some examples of that shortly. And then what happens is within that as well, you need to try and ensure as much as possible that it's multimodal. So you have, it's not just text, that you're building in some video of the teacher explaining things. So there's different ways of understanding. Also, it could be audio. It may be sort of quite visual use of slideshows, screencasts, which is a bit of a mix of both, but also diagrams and things, building those sorts of things in. So there's a range of ways for the students to engage with instructions. Also, a time frame is very useful. As I said, we usually work from a 1 to 2 week time frame. It may be longer for projects and assignments or inquiry-based stuff, but if you articulate or indicate the time frame, that's helpful for learners, so they've got a sense, okay, I've got 2 weeks to do this. And then the support systems that are in place to ensure understandings that help students later on. So if they have questions, there are avenues for help. And I would strongly recommend there that you do not design in ways where it's all about the teacher. So if you ask for any help to come your way, and that's the only way of doing things, and if you do so, say it's through emails or messaging, you'll get the same questions over and over again. Also, other students won't benefit from your answers. So we have a rule. Generally, we encourage our teachers to say to our students is, go to the community first, ask the question in there, and I'll allow some time for other students to come in and answer that. And if they don't, I'll answer it, unless it's of a private nature. And what that means is that everyone benefits from the answer and the question. Many students may not have thought of the question, and that you're building community. And if you do build community, you will get learners who come in and respond to other questions, and they will help, etc. So that's something really to try and build in online learning, and that helps in terms of support no end, because then if they don't understand some of these things, there are ways to get help. Also related to that, if we go here, I mentioned the cycle of learning within our model. What that looks like. So the majority of our students' time are an asynchronous time. So they may be online quite a bit. They may be using paper as well, where they're working through what has been set for that time frame. The synchronous of video conferences beginning and the end of the week. And that is an important place for helping students as well. So they'll come here, there'll be a cycle, so things are set in that time and things are reviewed within that video conference time. And that for us is it's quite an important aspect of the model. Without that, it can still work, but you don't quite have that connected feel. You don't have that sense of immediate. You don't have that sense of connection with the teachers and the students as much as you possibly could. So for that's an important point. But the synchronous is only one aspect, and it's certainly not a dominant feature, just one part of that cycle of learning. So just to give you some examples of what this looked like, this is conventional learning. If I go way back to Moodle days, good old Moodle, and how we would package course, so it'd be my modules, which I still do. They'd have a time frame and an overview, objectives, the tasks to do, sort of in simple form, links to some of the activities that are related. This is another one here. It's in a Google map. This is just an orientation, and then this would tend to be the format. It didn't look quite this ugly. I've gone back to a very old platform, which is well out of date. But again, you'd have the tasks, activities, overview, time allowed, and then some sort of supporting resources there as well. And that would be the generally format. Students get used to that format. There's a routine in place. They understand how it all works. Things have developed since then. I mean, in recent years, I've been using a Google Plus community like Marina showed yesterday. So it's very much it's a central environment for a community. It gives everyone the same opportunity to post. So it allows a community to develop rather than a very teacher-centered environment, which I would suggest, things like Classroom are inherently designed for the teachers to direct things, whereas a community, that can still happen, of course, but it's a bit easier for students to be directing things and be involved in the sense of community. And so what I'll do is just put a category in there, modules of learning, and the students would get used to, I'll pin these to the top of the community, but they'd get used to these appearing and just through a Google Doc, and then they would go, as Marina does, they would go away and explain to them what they were supposed to do. I suppose some examples of this in recent years, so this is a history one where basically there's, again, still a structure in place. It's a bit tidier than the Moodle, bit of a checklist for the students to go through at the end. And that was only a 1 weeker. So I put that example in the slideshow that I was looking at before. And but in the last 2 years, I've basically gone to a purpose-built environment, which is basically a social network. It's very much like the next environment we use. If I go to, it's got a central stream. And in here, there would be basically a page, a place where the modules of learning would be. So they'd have an overview, some supporting resources, and then these little drop-down modules, which would be usually 2 weeks, but sometimes 1 week, depends how it's designed. And this is very much emergent. I wouldn't set these. So this is historic. We've been through this. So I would release these every couple of weeks, and they would be designed. That's why I talk about emergent design. They would be designed based on where the students are at and the learners are at, what they've been doing, and the next module will be designed around that. It's not set in place a long way out. It's not pre-planned over a term. That doesn't mean there's not planning over a term, but the design moves with the students, hence the reference to emergent design. And within this, there's also, it's a highly social space. So again, going home, I can put posts out, which will just give them reminders in different aspects. I have this reminder section, which is some simple form, some of the things they need to think about. That's very short because we're just setting up something recently, which is a very big term-long task. And then there will be links along here. And they have their own groups. It's a philosophy course, so it's very open-ended. And there are different groups they can belong to, which explore different aspects of philosophy, but purely based on discussion, engaging in discussion. So very much a sense of social learning, I suppose, and that's a big part. And it was a big part of how I did history and how I did classics. Just so happens that philosophy, it's a very important aspect anyway. And that's a sense of how I do things these days.